Well, when I think of artificial, I think of fake. And what we're really dealing with is this isn't really intelligence. It's regurgitation of somebody else's knowledge, right? You're just a creative wordsmith that puts their knowledge in a specific sequence that reads correctly, and you're getting credit for succeeding.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It's my pleasure to have Bruce Clay with us. Bruce is the founder and president of Bruce Clay Inc. He authored the book Search Engine Optimization All-in-One for Dummies, now in its fourth edition, and Content Marketing Strategies for Professionals. He wrote the first webpage analysis tool, created the search engine relationship chart, and is credited with being the first to use the term search engine optimization. Bruce, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we've known each other for many, many, many years. We've been on countless panels together and seen each other at lots of conferences. So
absolutely,
you've got a lot of wisdom. Let's just start there. So what would be something that is unconventional wisdom that you have garnered, acquired through all these years of being in the search engine industry and going to all these conferences, flying on so many airplanes? What would be something that'll just blow our listener away?
Well, I'm not sure because I'm speculating that your listeners are likewise industry mature people. Typically, we have topics that range from some of the newer ones like AI and where that fits, and I have opinions about that. To work structures, to any number of topics. I don't know there's anything that would blow people away other than I don't think in the area of AI, I'll talk there. I don't think people understand what AI is.
So speak more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, AI is a tool. That's all it could be. And it's running circa 2021. So it isn't able to do a vast majority of the things that a lot of people want it to do, but it is able to do plenty. For instance, I can say, write an email to Stephan in the voice of a pirate, and it would rephrase my email and make it a pirate. You know, I can do fun things. It turns out that probably 90% of everything in AI has absolutely nothing to do with search. And search probably doesn't even care about AI, right? It's just people are going to be using AI to generate content, and that content is going to find its way into search. And search engines are rightly confused about it. The worst about it is that there are people who will take a keyword, stick it into an AI, chat GPT as an example, and say, generate a page, and it'll generate a page, and they'll just take it and submit it to the website or spin it to somebody else's website because they don't care about that somebody else. And there's going to be a ton of garbage created. And I think that what we have to do is understand that AI and chat and everything else as a tool is great at maybe doing some keyword research, and it's great at maybe even doing other research. What have you seen? Because not everything has to be within the last year. And getting an outline and then giving that to a writer and let a real artist create the document. It could save time. It absolutely can save time, but it is not designed as the solution. I think if you use it as the solution, you're going to have two problems. One, it's going to be garbage. The statistics on the market that I've seen in articles is that when people do surveys, they typically find that most AI articles are not liked as much as writer articles. So writer performance is better than AI. And the second thing is, if AI reads AI in order to build its opinion, all AI is ever going to do is understand what's regurgitated content from 5 years ago. It's not able to be creative. It's not able to invent. It's not necessarily able to imply things. Yesterday, in playing with AI, I had a list of keywords, and I said, remove all the keywords that are one word. And it didn't. Then I said, remove all the keywords that are less than 2 words. And it didn't. And I asked it, how many words are in each element in this keyword list? And it had it right. So then I had to ask it, how do I get you to remove the one-word phrases? And then it told me, and then I used that and it worked. Right? But 90% of the people aren't doing that. They're just, here's a keyword, give me an article, and you're getting all sorts of really bizarre things out of the articles.
Yeah, hallucinations is what they're called.
Hallucinations. And it turns out, here's a cool one. I said, write an article, and I want you to quote books and give citation. And it did it 3 times in the course of the article, which is great. But the ISBN number was always 0123456789. So then when I looked up the author, it was a fictitious person, right? So what seems to happen is if it can't answer it, it fills in the blanks with something. And then it's still our job to figure out if it's a lie or not.
This reminds me of who was that character on Saturday Night Live he was a terrible liar. He's like, yeah, that's it. You remember that guy?
Yeah. And what you have you ever seen it? And you call chat on it. And it's like you're talking to a person and it apologizes. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Or, oh, I got that wrong. And then it gives you a different answer. The one I really like is when the guy said, what is 2 plus 2? And Chad came back and said 4. Then he said, my wife says it's 5. And then Chad came back and said, then it must be 5. Your wife is always right. Oh my goodness.
That sounds like a skit from Saturday Night Live or something. By the way, it was John Lovitz on Saturday Night Live. That was his character was Tommy Flanagan. Remember that? Yeah, that's it.
Well, you get into this with chat, it's doing a fair job on most things. Not everything, but most things. And if you do it correctly, it is capable of giving you a good solid outline. You can even have it write an article in many topics that are evergreen, where it isn't state of the art, changing every second. And it'll actually give you a reasonable article. So I've been running experiments. If you took one of those articles and gave it to a writer, in an hour and a half, the writer can fix it. They could have written it in the first place in 3 hours, but in an hour and a half, they're going to be able to fix it. And how much time is that really saving, considering the investment in the time to actually get the outlines or to get the draft article to start with, right? So we've done some, and this is our pre-writer product. We talked about it a little bit earlier. And what it does is it actually takes your input and generates information for writers. It just sets them up. And that's all it does. And I can say silly things like, given this keyword, reverse engineer the top 10 Google results, combine them into one keyword list, and construct a page and subpages that emphasize those. And it'll build all the outlines and build the pages, and it'll all be done. And we know chat can't do it because chat doesn't go to Google and chat doesn't care about the web. And so we've had to build a really strong programming around it. But you can do it. And there's 15 functions and everything. It's great at keyword research. I can point it at any website and say, reverse engineer it, and it will. It can do that, provided it doesn't have to invent anything. It's where you get into where is it going next and what's that really mean? You're not going to get past that. So anyhow, the generation of chat is that it's amazing. It does an awful lot of things right. I can tell it to write a sales letter in a particular technique, like PASS, right? Pain, activate, and solution. And it'll write a sales letter in that form. It's great. But sales letters aren't going to be optimized and ranking in Google anytime soon. So as long as you don't have to worry about it, and you can read it, and the sales guy can say, yeah, I'll put my signature on it, and it can go out, and you can do things like that. I think that AI is very useful today. It's just a long way from being a website.
Yeah. Have any of your blog posts on bruceclay.com been written by AI?
No. I did. Okay. I will give you, we are experimenting. As you know, I've always inflicted pain on myself because my website ranks pretty well, so I can see what's happening. And if you go to my blog page and open up any blog there, what we've done is we've added a small section called an FAQ to the bottom of the blog post just to see what would happen. I know it sounds strange, but I did it. And if you go to the FAQ and highlight the question that the FAQ answers, just highlight that question and do a Google search. In almost every case, not every case, but in almost every case, we're the featured snippet. And you don't search in quotes, you just search. I don't even quite know what to make of it myself. It's just that that's an experiment we're running to see what would happen. But the question itself shows us as the featured snippet, and it highlights the portions that are within that area just fine.
Okay, so I just tried that on your second to last blog post, the one on content. Let's see, 5 steps to help writers create expert content for SEO. And the FAQ question.
Did it work?
No, sorry. The FAQ question at the end was, how can I ensure quality content as part of an SEO program? So I copied and pasted that in. I didn't put quotes around it, but I pasted that entire phrase in. The featured snippet was HubSpot's blog. And then the people also had, how do I create quality content for SEO? And I expanded that, hoping it was there. Nope, that was a yoast.com post.
Yep. I find that sometimes, as I said, not every time. And if you use the wrong words, for instance, one of them discussed COVID. Well, in the COVID world, you get NIH results and all sorts of stuff. You're not going to necessarily show up. But I did have, probably out of the 10 links, we'll probably have 7 of them with a featured snippet.
Do you see much benefit of getting featured snippet? Because I know studies show that featured snippets don't get as many clicks, and perhaps the conversion isn't as high versus just being in the regular organic position 1.
I understand that. I think the formatting changes that Google has made recently helps. Let me tell you what I think is important. We're going to a chat world. Now, you and I both know we've been around like forever. I think collectively we're about 250 internet years on, on SEO. But when you look at the beginning, it was a page and the search engines were primitive enough that everything was keyword based, right? Keywords drove the first 12 years of search. What I think is going to happen is that questions are going to drive the future. Maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year. That questions will actually be the way people query. And I think chat has been the catalyst for that. But I think that people are going to query with questions. So one of the things I'm doing with our technology is we're generating these FAQs. And I think that if we generate the FAQs correctly and they're smart enough, that ultimately, instead of search being keyword based, it's going to be question based. Ultimately, whoever has the most questions wins. And so if I took an entire website about SEO and I were to go through and add an FAQ to every page that is appropriate to the content of that page, I think that ultimately I'm going to win. I think in the case of all your listeners, they are in all these different categories. But ultimately, if people are going to be asking questions instead of typing in keywords, ultimately, whoever has the most questions wins. And that's what I'm developing the product for. So, and it's really pretty smart, at least in a fair number of times, it's smart enough to get the featured snippet.
It's a very clever idea. I have to commend you on that. I have not seen blog posts put FAQs at the bottom, or bloggers put FAQs at the bottom of their blog posts. That's quite innovative. I've seen plenty of sales pages, landing pages, even product pages with FAQs on the bottom of the page. But yeah, that's quite innovative. Where'd you come up with that idea?
I just figured that was where search was going, and I better put it everywhere. And it turns out I have an inventory of very old blog posts that I'm in the process of cleaning up. I have 4,000 of them. Let's put it that way. It's old. All the live blogging from the conferences and, years. I've been around 27 years. I got a lot of blog posts. And we're finding that about 80% of them have either been replaced without a redirect or are just obsolete, or it's not as strong as some more recent ones. So we're going through, and 80% are going to redirect. The 20% that are left, we're rewriting, and all of them, that's going to be about 1,000, 800 to 1,000 blog posts. They're all going to have FAQs on them appropriate to the content. It's all going to be recent. I mean, I have a full team of people just writing and rewriting all my stuff. And that's a lot of writing, but we're redoing it all. I think we're going to find that the fact that there's questions being answered on your website in mass is really going to help you rank when the transition goes from keyword to question as a search interface. We all know that Google and Bing are working on it. Everybody else, I'm sure, is working on it. Given that they're going to go in that direction, we want to get there first. And so that's my product.
And this product is called Pre-Writer?
Prewriter.ai.
Awesome. And then what are you doing to market that Because you want people who aren't just Bruce Clay Inc. clients, right?
We're building our site. We will make it available to everybody when it's due to launch September, which is before the show.
Right. So this episode's going to air probably December. So we're in July right now. So you're still in product development and beta testing phase, right?
We've been running it internally for a while, and we're probably ready to let somebody try it in a couple of weeks for a release by the end of September-ish. So when everybody hears this, you'll be able to go to prewriter.ai. And what it'll do is you'll put in and say, this is my keyword. And it's going to give you a pre-written page, and it's going to give you an FAQ, and it's going to give you a complete profile of the page. It's going to say, this is the primary keyword, and this is your title, and here's 4 questions appropriate, and this is your meta tags, and this is your abstract, and this is just a whole slew of information about the page. From that, you give it to a writer, and the writer, with that information, has all they need to be able to finish the article. I'll tell you right now, too many people are finding that they can't give up the writing because it requires that you be a subject matter expert. And it's hard to find writers that are a subject matter expert for you. So you're going to have to finish your writing. But why do you have to spend the 2 hours at the front doing what we can give you in 15 minutes? I mean, push a button, there you are. And got to give it a keyword. But it'll give you back what you want. And, the economics of it are astronomical. So, but the thing is, you can't just do that with chat. You can't go to chat and say, what's the top 10 ranking in Google? Right? I mean, there's either an automation process or a lot of human intervention. And while all of the stuff that's possible can be done by human intervention, automating it is the right way to do it. So it's interesting. We also have, as you may recall, we have a patent. And the patent, this is and it's a lockdown strong patent. The patent says, for a keyword, you go to Google or a search engine, you do the query, you take the top results, you spider them, you extract out characteristics common to each of them, and you set that as a target that you would use for creating content. That's our patent. Now, we're in a lot of litigation right now. Not a lot, but some, that has people violating the patent. They're doing exactly that. But why would anybody want to do that if I'm selling it to you for $1? Every time, I mean, you can't even imagine not doing it right. And so anyhow, it's a long story about what we're doing, but it's pretty complex. And I'm pretty excited about it because this really is, I can take a keyword and generate a page, an FAQ, and a profile in 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool.
No writer could do that.
Have you talked with Christoph Kemper and what he's doing with AI PRM?
No, I haven't talked to, actually, I haven't talked to anybody about it. There's a lot of people doing things that look to infringe, but there's a lot of people going in different directions as well, from what I can gather. I haven't talked to him.
I would talk to him. Maybe there's some synergy there because he has, forget how many millions of people on his platform using his Chrome extension, the AI PRM. So it's kind of like a marketplace for prompts and different. Yeah, it's really cool. I just interviewed him recently on this podcast, so
Great.
yeah, could be some synergy there. I would connect with him. You mentioned your patent. How many other patents do you have?
I really only have two patents. So one is an artistic rendering patent, and one is the actual technology of gathering, spidering, and calculating a behavior as a result of analyzing the top 10 pages. And I've had that for a number of years.
Have you gotten companies come to you asking to license that patent?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you currently licensing it? Do you have companies that are using it now?
I only have one, mostly because he behaved correctly. But others, there may be settlements that'll do it. I'm not worried so much about it. I also don't like insults. So it's up in the air.
Okay. Interesting. So how big is your company now? We haven't spoken for a little while. So I regale me with all the successes, like how many offices, how big's your team?
Okay, so here in the U.S., we've been using contractors through agencies. We're still coming out of the COVID period, so we're probably around 40 U.S. We got 60 in Tokyo. That's our largest international office. But we also have an office in Sydney, Singapore, Milan, and the second largest is in just outside of New Delhi in India. And each of the offices services their regions. So overall, we got a couple hundred people, but here in the U.S., it's 40. I did have an office in Dubai for UAE, and that office was just recently purchased for lots of money.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Awesome.
I can't go back into the UAE for another 2 years about. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know that the UAE is a particular target as much as Europe seems to be. And Milan office is growing. It's Bruce Clay EU, and it's growing pretty good. So
why Milan and not Paris?
it has to do, for some reason, where we're at. Milan is just a stone's throw from Switzerland, so there's an economic advantage to that. It's like everybody there speaks English, so I just found it very easy to do Milan. But they're opening everything from the UK down. So there's, I think I think they have people in every country. So where you're at in a virtual world is much less important now.
How did you settle on Tokyo as a place to set a branch office up?
Well, it turns out that Tokyo is the hub in Japan of most of the businesses. It's a very large business hub. And we are, how you've seen movies where the people are crossing, I forgot the name of what they call it, but in Japan, how they have these big striped intersections. We are literally 100 yards from that. We are in the building right next to Google. So it seemed like the right place to be. Now, Japan is an interesting situation in that.
Oh, were you talking about Shibuya crossing?
Yes, perfect. Yeah. And I've been there like 4 or 5 times, and you don't go in the summer, real humid, but it's very, very nice. But the difference in Japan is they're a multi-bit language. So they generate more than half of their revenue off of pay-per-click because it's far easier to do pay-per-click in Japan. And so the offices will vary based upon their regions. And but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good network. We support each other. We make it work. Keeps going. Everything's fine. Happy with it. Now, another part of the story is when you look at, okay, there's Tokyo and there's Sydney and there's Milan and there's Dubai, right? I've been to the Taj Mahal twice in India, right? When you look at them, I commonly would end up with an office where I wanted to vacation, right? So you fly in, you see the Colosseum, you take the train up, you see David's statue, you take the train up, you see the glassworks in Venice, and then you take the train over. Once you're in Italy, it's really, it's a nice country, very nice country. And I think I like it. So.
And how often would you go to these different offices to check on the team and what all's happening?
Well, I would go, they'd schedule a meeting with clients or even a training session sometimes, and I would go once a year. One time I decided I was only going to fly west because I had to go to India, and India was on the exact opposite side of the planet, right? So I flew around the world because I only flew west. I only did it once because the number of hours you sit in an airport is terrible. But I said I wanted to do it, so I did it. So I've actually flown around the world. It's great when you go.
And did you take your wife with you when you went around the world?
No, that was before we were married.
See, that wouldn't appeal to me to do it on my own.
Well, I was on my way to do a visit to the office in India. And, well, I can fly east through Germany because you stop and switch and go over. Or I could go west. It was technically the amount of time in the air was only 1 hour difference. It's the sitting in the airport waiting for your flight that's the killer. But I'm glad I did it. It's one of those bucket list things, right?
Awesome. And you mentioned doing training sessions or workshops. How often are you doing those these days? And what makes your trainings better than what they'd find elsewhere?
Okay, so for years, I would actually have a 1 week classroom, 4.5 day classroom course. People would fly in on Monday and they leave noon on Friday. It was literally 4.5 days of pure SEO. I mean, it was pretty concentrated. Then along comes COVID, and I couldn't do much with it because I can't have a classroom course. So I happen to own some really nice domains. I own SEOtools.com. I also own SEOtraining.com. So I decided, okay, I'm going to record my training. Now, one of the interesting things is when you take a 4.5 day course and record it, you cut out a lot of stuff, right? There's no interactive Q&A. I would do an hour a day of Q&A just for the audience. You don't have breaks. You don't have the things that fill in a 4.5 day week. So I created SEOtraining.com, put up a 15-hour video course, 46 slices, and made it a membership so that people can go to SEOtraining.com. It's $149 a month to month. Sign up, take the training course, take it again next month, take it again the month after that. I have monthly Q&As. We have Ask Us Anythings, ebooks, white papers, an education environment on SEOtraining.com. And that's replaced pretty much my classroom course. Now, as it turns out, I have refreshed my content for the classroom course. And I'm wondering whether I should do it again. Make it a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday course. I kind of like giving the course, right? I mean, I really enjoyed it. And people would come. I'd have 30 people in the class paying $3,000 each. I'm okay with that every other month. But, COVID, of course, threw a wrench in that work. But yeah, now we're doing it online. And I'm thinking maybe once a year I'll do a classroom course.
Cool. Been familiar with your trainings that you do in collaboration with PubCon and other conference organizations. Have you picked that back up, or is that now in the past, post-COVID?
No, actually, I'll use SMX as an example. With SMX, I'm one of their masterclass instructors. I teach there probably 3 times a year. And but they have me set up to give a 1-day version of my course, not the whole week, obviously. So it's 2 half-day sessions. We've got one coming up actually soon, and then so every 4 months I think they're doing one, and it works out pretty well. I don't know what the schedule is for next year, so I can't really get into that. And SMX is still a virtual conference. Just before your show will air, I'm sponsoring Brighton in the U.S., in San Diego.
Yeah, the San Diego one. I just interviewed Calvin Newman. We were talking about that event. Yeah.
So I'm a sponsor, and I'll be there. So I'm not teaching there. I'm just going to see how well it's going to do. This is their inaugural conference in the U.S. I think that what's going on, if you look around, I think the average person doesn't really care to wear a mask anymore. And the only time I've had to wear a mask in the last couple of months is when I go to see my doctor, because doctors' offices still have mandatory masks. But I think everybody's over it.
Really? That's not, I guess maybe in California. That's not the case here in Florida.
Well, in Florida, they didn't want masks in the first place, so that makes sense. But here in California, yeah, if you go to a doctor's office, everybody's in a mask. But let's face it, you're going to someplace where everybody's sick, so you might as well wear a mask. It's not a big deal. And everybody got used to it. And now with all the smoke problem in the Northeast, they're back to wearing masks in New York City sometimes. So hard to say. Hard to say.
We live in interesting times.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what if somebody wanted to hire you individually? Say, I only want to work with Bruce Clay. Do you offer an hourly rate?
Well, I used to, and it was $1,000 an hour, figuring that nobody would ever hire me. And then people said, okay, and they started hiring me. And so then I stopped doing that because I didn't expect to be hired. And quite frankly, there's a lot in SEO, and I think you know it and everybody else knows it. There's a lot in SEO because of the complexity that has been built up over the years, where there are things that are easy to do. They're, repetitious. They're, title tags. I mean, anybody can do schemas, right? You go through those levels, but then you have a level where something's wrong and nobody knows what it is. And that's where I prefer to play, but that's not a full-time gig. So I typically don't do one-off consultant. Now, having said that, periodically there are people that want me involved, and I'm already involved in all my clients. I'll just randomly sit in. I review all my clients every week with the staff. So I'm heavily involved. I'm just not, the person on the phone all the time. And but I don't think I want to be selling my time anymore.
No, it's not a good use of your time. You have higher value uses of your time for sure. Now, one of the things I remember you would do is like research and development and learning and growing, and you'd go to Oktoberfest all the time, like every year. Like, how often did you go to Oktoberfest? Or SEO Oktoberfest, I should say.
SEO Oktoberfest, yes. That's twice.
Oh, you went twice. Okay. And what were some of the experiences or lessons or nuances that you got out of it that made it so valuable?
Well, the issue is this was logically, it was 50 of the top SEOs in the world. And I got to hear from people doing SEO in areas that had nothing to do with me. And in fact, probably about a fourth of the people in the room are black hat. So you got to hear things that I would not ever hear at a conference, that I would not read typically. But they would say, but if you do this, this is what happens. And so I think a lot of the educational advantage of those conferences was in the fact that I was dealing with the people, and there was all sorts of mutual admiration and support. It wasn't adversarial, but it was clearly things that I had not had to think about or would think about normally. And those are things that you have to hear. Now, it was only a week a year, but it was a good session. It makes you aware that things like that happen, right?
So where do you think things are heading in terms of black hat SEO and black hat AI? You're talking earlier about a ton of garbage being created by AI, by users of AI to overwhelm the search engines with content, quote unquote. So I think that's just scratching the surface of what this could become. And I think you alluded to it somewhat, that I think of this visual of a snake eating its tail, where there's much more content created by AI than by humans, to the point where AI is just regurgitating its own content, and it doesn't even differentiate. And so it's just a race to the bottom.
Right. I mean, the concept of AI is that it learns from an LLM, a large language model, and if it populates it with its own stuff, pretty soon you're only going to hear your own stuff because it's the majority of the model. So I think that's a problem. I was reading, it was about 2 weeks ago, but I was reading an article about black hat chat usage. People are using chat to do all sorts of things. You absolutely can use chat to, how do I, do something illegal, and it'll tell you. And Google claims that they're going to try not to do that. Chat doesn't know. And it'll tell you all sorts of things. And I think that there's going to be there already is starting in some cases, a backlash against it giving away things that are harmful to society or items that are actually blatantly illegal. You can't do that. And chat doesn't know the difference. It's just content, right? Next word, next word, next word. Thank you. There it is. It doesn't know what it wrote. It doesn't think about what it wrote. It doesn't understand what it wrote. It just wrote it. And, there's a concept in my mind of artificial intelligence. When I think of artificial, let's take it. Artificial sweeteners in food are fake, right? They're fake sweeteners. There's people who want it to taste this way, but it's really not that substance. Well, when I think of artificial, I think of fake. And what we're really dealing with is this isn't really intelligence. It's regurgitation of somebody else's knowledge, right? You're just a creative wordsmith that puts their knowledge in a specific sequence that reads correctly, and you're getting credit for succeeding. And in fact, I think that artificial intelligence is fake. It's certainly not intelligence.
Yeah. By the way, have you heard of dead internet theory?
No.
Oh, you got to Google this, or look it up on YouTube. There's some really fascinating videos, like the one from the Y-Files. I'll include it in the show notes too. So it reckons that most of the internet is fake, that it's bot activity and auto-generated content and quitting and communities and so forth, and a lot of the media manipulation that's happening, and just manipulation of the population, because social media and forums and all these communities and so forth are swaying in one direction or another. Just like you can fake Amazon reviews, you can fake articles, you can fake comments, you can fake posts on social media. And so this has been around for a while, this dead internet theory, that it's, hey, we're on to you. We know that most of this is fake and that you're just trying to program us, trying to manipulate us. So that's a pretty fascinating rabbit hole to dig into if you're interested. But I also know that we're out of time. You have a hard stop, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave it on dead internet theory. How does our listener or viewer get in touch with you and your company to hire you for SEO services and all that sort of good stuff?
And I wish everybody would. They would find us through bruceclay.com. There's right at the top, it says contact us. That's the easiest way to do it. Comes in. Right now, we're 100% in the US. We're 100% remote. So, but we typically get back to folks promptly. So, yeah, reach us through bruceclay.com.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Bruce. And thank you, listener.
Thank you.
We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.